So you're currently watching me on a Panasonic GH2. It's kind of a pretty decent camera for 1080p video. It's not the latest, it's not the greatest, but it's got manual video controls, and that's one of the things I was looking for when I bought it. But it's not a professional camera, and I always wanted a professional camera, but they were always way too expensive. Like, we're talking thousands of pounds for one of these. Brand new, you're looking at $3,000 for a professional camera, and the used prices just, don't really go down much. They keep their value because they're professional bits of gear. So yeah, I was on eBay recently, and that's a really bad thing for me because I get on eBay and I find crazy stuff that I don't need to buy. I bought a professional camera. This is a Sony HVR-Z1. Possibly one of the, original high-def cameras. This would have been used by many news crews and amateur, videographers and, colleges and stuff who wanted good cameras for teaching and stuff. These aren't, obviously, you're not going to see any big production movies filmed on this. This is not a replacement for a cinema camera, and I highly doubt you'd find any big TV shows filmed on this as well, because this again isn't a replacement for, at the time would have been, I think, HD cam or Betacam HD or something. This is very much a run and gun, low production, but I don't want to say cheap production, but a budget professional video setup would use one of these, especially news crews, because it's really designed for run and gun news. It's got every feature you'd want on it, including the XLR microphone jacks, which I really wanted in my Panasonic cameras. So this camera isn't perfect in 2020 though. It films on mini DV tapes like this. This is actually the tape that came with it, and it tells a history of what this camera has done. This tape has 1 hour of a London law firm talking about 2015. It's February 2015 it was recorded, and we're hoping 2015 is going to be a really good year for our law firm. We're amazing, and it's been an economical, and it is so dry and boring. Honestly, the guy needs to have some more Weetabix in the morning or something. He is so boring. This poor camera had done many years of that, I assume. I actually found the video on this tape on YouTube on the law company's website. So it's quite insane to see that this camera had a life before I got it. So yeah, how much do you think this cost? If you guessed 90 British pounds, you was right. Yeah. I still don't know how I got it for that price. So it's a very cheap camera for me, at least, and it's got every feature I'd ever want in it. The only annoyance is these videotapes, and it's a shame because that's probably why this camera was shelved back in 2015, which was, I assume, when it was last used, because this tape was still in it, fully at the end. Someone had taken the footage off the camera and they had never reused the camera. The camera got shelved, never used again. And that's kind of a bit of a shame. So I actually went on eBay knowing after I bought this camera, I was like, I don't really want to use little Panasonic mini DV tapes or Sony mini DV tapes, consumer mini DV tapes. So I went on eBay. I think I paid £2 and I got 2 of these DV cam tapes. They're literally identical to a mini DV tape. They work just fine for HDV. And yeah, they should be a lot more at home in this camera. So it does film HD video, 1080i, which is annoying. It really is. There is a cinema frame, I think it's called, or cine frame or something, which does 25 frames a second progressive, 24 or 30 frames progressive if you're in America, but it doesn't look like 25 frames a second. It looks more like stop motion. Yeah, it doesn't look right. And I actually think I got better results doing a deinterlace and putting it into 25 frames a second. And yes, I'm fully aware that you could probably get a full 50 frames a second out of this with the right deinterlace in software. But I don't really want 50 frames a second for YouTube videos. I like filming at 25 or 24 frames a second in the case of the GH2 here. So what we're going to do now is I'm actually going to flick this camera on. We're going to see what the image quality is like for these old YouTube videos. I'm gonna say right now it's probably not going to be as sharp as this Panasonic GH2, because we're comparing a camera from what, 2008, 2009, I think even earlier than that. This might be from 2007 or something. I know HDV came out around 2003, so this is like quite an old format on here, and we're going to be comparing it to a modern-ish AVC HD, H.264, everything, like big sensors, like it's not going to be the same. Right, so we're now recording. I'm actually recording this straight into the computer over a mini DV Firewire cable here, so this may or may not work. I'm literally bypassing the entire tape mechanism, and that's because I do not want to put any more hours on it. I think it's quite low hours in the grand scheme of things, but I still don't want to wear this camera out because I've always wanted a camera like this, and the fact that I now own one, I don't want to destroy it right away. I don't have any other way of getting video recorded out in the field, really. I do plan on maybe getting the Sony HVR-Z1. It's basically a compact flash card unit that plugs into that Firewire port. And I'm really lucky the Firewire port works. Everything's working on this camera. The tape mechanism all works. Everything works. I got it for £90. It's basically untested, no battery included. Well, I had some Sony MPF batteries, which is kind of an industry standard. They still use it today on the modern replacement for this. In the box for this camera, I also got this. Yeah, anyone who knows the Z1 knows it doesn't actually have a port for that charger, so I'm not entirely sure why they gave it to me. I mean, I'm not complaining. I've got some other Sony handycams that do use that connector, and I'm pretty sure some other different models do actually have that. I think the maybe the Z5 might have that. I can't remember. I've seen this on other HDV cameras and stuff, so it's not going to waste, but it shows that the seller probably had loads of different cameras, then they just threw in a Sony charger saying, it probably works with that one. They didn't throw in a battery. So it does make me wonder if they actually tested this camera at all, because if they had tested it, they'd know that it works fully and that it's worth quite a bit of money still. Even in 2020, these things make £300 odd. They have an absolutely amazing lens on them. They've got all the professional features you could want. And the fact is, people still use these. Like, TV stations are still recording a lot of standard definition content. A lot of them are still using DV cam. And in fact, some of the more modern, like all flash-based cameras still let you record DV cam as a file onto a memory card. And that's simply because, especially in the UK, if you go on the TV, there's a lot of standard definition only channels, and why would you go out through the expense and extra time of editing and doing high definition when you know it's only going out to standard definition? So these cameras are still probably being used by many TV stations and production companies out there, even though the image is not like comparable to a modern camera. Because if you're recording, even if you're recording it in HD and outputting it to standard definition, it's going to look the same to the end user. So these cameras are very popular, at least on eBay. They might not be popular for every, like in the industry, like a lot of industries might have just moved over to something like a Panasonic GH5 or something, or GH6, I don't know what they're on now. But I, for one, am really happy to have this Z1, and I've freed it from the torture that is a law firm, because if I know anything about law, it's that it's incredibly dry and boring, and this poor camera was filming hours and hours and hours of law, and I freed it. I feel like I'm a hero in this situation. I've given this camera a new home where it's going to film hopefully some fun videos. So yes, where do I go from here? Well, I want to actually get a HDV deck for my computer, because right now the only way to get footage off this camera is via this Firewire cable. And don't get me wrong, Firewire is awesome. I have a Firewire audio capture card on my computer. I have a Firewire card. As a result, I've got this camera that now uses Firewire. The problem is the Firewire port on these cameras is quite fragile. So I would rather not be plugging in and out that cable all the time, because I know it's just going to fail that port at some point. I'd much rather just take the tape out and put the tape into a HD deck on my computer, where I can then also rewind it and stuff without doing any extra hours and tape damage, or head damage rather, to this poor Z1. So that's it for this video. It's just a little show and tell of my new camera. I quite like it. I might do some videos with it. I might continue using my Panasonic GH2 most of the time, simply because it's all digital. Well, they're both all digital, but it's all flash storage. But I do like this Z1. It's got so many cool features in it, and I can't wait to try and use all of them to their full advantage.